Recession a red light warning for incredibly fragile economy, National. National says confirmation New Zealand has tipped into recession is a red light warning for an incredibly fragile economy. Finance spokesperson Nicola Willis said while the government continued to make excuses, the data did not lie, showing New Zealand was in worse shape than many other comparable countries which had faced similar challenges but none of which faced the toxic economic predicament we now find ourselves in.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Face the toxic economic predicament we now find ourselves in. Excessive inflation, high interest rates, a severe balance of payments deficit and now a recession. This is a dangerous combination that threatens New Zealanders' livelihoods. She said National had been warning about the risks of the current approach and it's time to call time on policies that have been anti-growth, anti-business, and that led New Zealand to where it is today. Finance Minister Grant Robertson said the economy was showing resilience after this year's devastating weather events, with today's figures reflecting the impact of the Auckland anniversary floods and Cyclone Gabrielle, with estimates of hundreds of millions of dollars of lost production and activity across agriculture, forestry, fishing, transport, and manufacturing. The result was not a surprise. We know 2023 is a challenging year as global growth slows, inflation has stayed higher for longer and the impacts of North Island.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
No, 2023 is a challenging year as global growth slows, inflation has stayed higher for longer and the impacts of North Island weather events continue to disrupt households and businesses. Robertson defended accusations of economic mismanagement, saying the fall in central government consumption shows the government is taking pressure off the Reserve Bank and interest rates with our careful and targeted spending. ACT Party. ACT, however, said the government was running an after-pay economy, buy now and pay later. The core of the problem, leader David Seymour said, was low productivity. Too much government waste, too much red tape and regulation, means too much compliance time and not enough productive time. New Zealanders expect first world living standards, but the economy under Labour doesn't produce them, so Kiwis borrow the gap between a second world economy and first world living standards. Union Voice. The Council of Trade Unions, though, warned against any exaggeration of what the recession meant, as it was a direct result of Cyclone Gabrielle. Council of Trade Unions economist Craig Rennie said recession was a scary word but literally, that's occurred because we've had a cyclone. If it wasn't for that cyclone and a couple of other one-off events, we'd have flat or positive growth, and we wouldn't be in recession. The risk was that New Zealand talked itself into a more severe recession in ways that aren't helpful and aren't backed up by data. What today's data did show, was that government spending, as opposed to private sector spending, is very much lagging, Rennie said. And so when people talk about the government spending too much money, or the government is actually generating inflation or generating problems, government spending is falling on this basis. It's playing its part, and if we were to cut spending even further, that would likely actually exacerbate the GDP problem, rather than actually help or enhance the economy and output as we see it right now. Kiwibank economist. Kiwibank chief economist Gerard Kerr said it was fair to take today's results as a red light flashing. There were signs the recession could continue for the rest of the year and worker layoffs and less government tax take were likely. The economy has shown to be weaker than we were expecting. It started contracting sooner than most people thought, and it's a little deeper than we thought. But it's all about the outlook, and the outlook is still uninspiring. We think we're going to see a couple of contractions later this year. So the second half of this year is going to be worse than the first half. And then I think we'll see things steady up and improve hopefully over 2024, but that will require the Reserve Bank cutting interest rates from early next year. So it is a long shallow recession. The current position of the economy indicated the Reserve Bank had gone too far with official cash rate adjustments, Kerr said. We've seen a rather heavy-handed aggressive approach from the Reserve Bank, they were one of the first in the world to start lifting rates, so congratulations there, but I think they've gone too far. I think we may find the last couple of rate hikes from the Reserve Bank weren't needed. And that just means that they can turn around a bit sooner than most people, themselves included, expect. Treasury had taken a more optimistic approach to the numbers before the national budget, he said. Treasury revised their forecasts higher, most economists and the Reserve Bank of New Zealand didn't. We still have recessions in our numbers. But even Treasury's forecasts, even though they were revised higher and they said we're not going to see a recession, they were forecasting very ordinary outcomes this year. So it looks like they were a little optimistic, and we're seeing that in government revenues. So the tax take that the government's getting is much lower than their forecast, and that's coming through in weaker GST, which is a sign of soft activity, and it's also weaker corporate tax, and that is a very clear sign of a softening economy. How will the recession affect people? Kerr said this time last year businesses were screaming out for more workers, but that has changed dramatically. It's more around actually reducing their workforce. They're worried about their revenue, they are worried about the amount of inventory they're carrying, they're worried about the demand for their product or service. So we're actually going to start to see businesses laying off people. It's not going to be mass layoffs, we're not going to see a massive lift in unemployment, but we are going to see a lift in unemployment. PM Chris Hipkins addresses the recession. Prime Minister Chris Hipkins emphasized a message that New Zealand was sailing smoothly despite choppy waters from the global recession and weather events. Hipkins was speaking to media on Thursday afternoon from the opening of the Waiariki Hot Springs and Spa, an IWI-owned development in Rotorua. He used the occasion to plug the government's direction through the pandemic and work on the economy, exports, and policing, and said their approach was what was needed to get the country through the storm. Asked about how much responsibility the Labour coalition government took for the country entering recession, Hipkins emphasized the wider context. We have to acknowledge, economists say the effects on the second quarter were largely driven by the cyclone. It's had a significant impact on our primary producing export industries, and that's reflected in the GDP numbers. The economists are also saying this is what they would describe as a technical recession, and there isn't evidence that New Zealand's experiencing a deep or prolonged economic downturn. Asked about whether the Reserve Bank's monetary adjustments had been too aggressive, Hipkins said that was a matter for the Reserve Bank, and it was likely every economist would have a different opinion. Challenged on whether the move into recession could cost Labour valuable ground with voters in an election year, he conveyed a message of steady hands at the helm. I think the Labour government will go into the election campaign with a proud track record. We've managed New Zealand's economy through a number of very challenging times in recent years, including a global pandemic, including an international spike in inflation, and including the current economic turmoil that we're seeing globally as well. This is part of a global economic downturn. New Zealand's not immune from those things. We want to mitigate the cost of living. We want to make sure that we're supporting Kiwi families through a cost of living spike. We want to ensure that we're also supporting our businesses to continue to grow and expand, because that's ultimately how we're going to turn the economic picture around. But the work that we've done as a government to boost our exports, you see the evidence of that today in record export figures released this morning. That's a sign that the strategy that we've got as a government, of growing our exports, growing our local industry, that's off the back of very significant work our government's done to boost our exports, to sign free trade agreements that are really going to be great for our exporters. These are the sort of things that are going to get New Zealand through. The government's strategy from here would be more of the same, Hipkins said. We'll do what we continue to do. We're managing the government's finances responsibly so we can get the government's books back in balance. We'll continue to look to how we can support Kiwi families dealing with the cost of living crisis. And we'll look to continue to grow our exports and to grow jobs within the New Zealand economy, because that's how we'll get through. Green Party. The Green Party says the GDP figures show it's clearer than ever that Aotearoa needs the Green Party's income guarantee, under which people would get at least $770 a week, while a single parent would always have an income of at least $735. Finance spokesperson Julie Angenter said recessions hit low-income people hardest because they have smaller savings and tend to be in more precarious employment. Many of these people are the essential workers who shouldered the cost of getting through the pandemic, and are now carrying the bill for the recovery. The government's strategy from here would be more of the same, Hipkins said. We'll do what we continue to do. We're managing the government's finances responsibly so we can get the government's books back in balance. We'll continue to look to how we can support Kiwi families dealing with the cost of living crisis. And we'll look to continue to grow our exports and to grow jobs within the New Zealand economy, because that's how we'll get through. Green Party. The Green Party says the GDP figures show it's clearer than ever that Aotearoa needs the Green Party's income guarantee, under which people would get at least $770 a week, while a single parent would always have an income of at least $735. Finance spokesperson Julie Angenter said recessions hit low-income people hardest because they have smaller savings and tend to be in more precarious employment. Many of these people are the essential workers who shouldered the cost of getting through the pandemic, and are now carrying the bill for the recovery. Many of these people are the essential workers who shouldered the cost of getting through the pandemic, and are now carrying the bill for the recovery.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
President Tinubu suspends anti-corruption chief under investigation. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has suspended the country's anti-corruption chief, who is under investigation for abuse of office, the government has announced. The ousting of the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Abdul Rashid Bawa, is the second of a senior official ordered by Mr. Tinubu since he took office on May 29, promising economic reforms.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Took office on May 29 promising economic reforms. Mr. Bawa has been ordered to immediately transfer the management of the affairs of his office to the Commission's Director of Operations, who will be in charge until the conclusion of the investigation, the government announced in a statement published on Wednesday evening. This sanction was taken because of serious accusations of abuse of power against him, it added, without giving details. Mr. Bawa was then questioned in this context by the State Security and Intelligence Services, the government added. His suspension comes just after the ousting and arrest last week of the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, who is also under investigation. The EFCC investigates money laundering, embezzlement and other financial crimes, including online scams. The previous president, Muhammadu Buhari, made the fight against corruption one of his hobby horses during his 2000.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
The previous president, Muhammadu Buhari, made the fight against corruption one of his hobby horses during his 2015 and 2019 election campaigns. But Nigeria remains one of the most corrupt countries in the world, according to the leading specialist NGO Transparency International. Elected on February 25 in a disputed election, Mr. Tinubu promised reforms to get Africa's largest economy, and one of the continent's leading oil producers, out of financial difficulties. As soon as he took office, he announced an end to fuel subsidies, which were costing the state billions of euros according to analysts and forcing it to borrow massively to keep petrol prices artificially low. This measure tripled fuel prices, leading to a surge in transport costs and higher food and electricity prices for many Nigerians using petrol generators. Economic recovery is one of the many challenges facing Mr. Tinubu, along with the fight against insecurity fueled in various parts of the country by jihadist groups, heavily armed gangs and separatist rebels. with the fight against insecurity fueled in various parts of the country by jihadist groups, heavily armed gangs and separatist rebels.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Cyclone Biparjoy makes landfall, wind speed likely to be at 115 to 125 km/h, IMD. Cyclone Biparjoy has made landfall on Thursday touching the Saurashtra, Kutch in Gujarat, and adjoining Pakistan coasts, India Meteorological Department, IMD, has said. The wind speed is likely to be 115 to 125 km/h, gusting to 145 km/h during the landfall process, it said.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
5 km/h during the landfall process, it said. According to IMD, heavy rainfall is likely to continue during the landfall process. The landfall process may take several hours to complete, IMD said. The meteorological department said the storm surge due to the cyclone will likely be 2 to 3 meters above the astronomical tide and is expected to inundate low-lying areas of Dwarka, Oka, Diu, Nalia, Varaval, Bajaj, Porbandar, and Kandla. The astronomical tides in some of these districts could be up to 3 to 6 meters in different places, IMD said. The landfall point is likely to be between Mandvi and Karachi near Jakhau Port, and the landfall process is expected to continue till midnight on Thursday. Landfall process takes a few hours to be completed and may continue until midnight. The region where landfall will take place doesn't have uniform coast, it's more like a gulf, so the landfall process will take time. The size of the total system is huge, about 300 kilometers in radius.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Like a gulf, so the landfall process will take time. The size of the total system is huge, about 300 kilometers in radius, core wind area is 100 kilometers in radius. It is a very severe cyclone and is expected to maintain the same intensity, said Ananda Das, in charge of cyclones at IMD. If you see the radar, the northern portion of the cyclone, there not much rainfall is seen. Most of the rainfall will be in the southern eye wall as mentioned earlier. This shows areas on the southern side of the center will get more rain in next 6 HRS than areas north of the center, said Vineet Kumar Singh, researcher, Typhoon Research Center, Jeju National University, South Korea. Cyclone Biparjoy is now the longest duration cyclone in the Arabian Sea history, breaking the record of the June 1998 cyclone based on data from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Cyclone Biparjoy is maintaining cyclone strength, winds 34 knots, for 192 hours, till Wednesday morning, Singh had said on Wednesday. Winds 34 knots, for 192 hours, till Wednesday morning, Singh had said on Wednesday.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Canada halting all government-led activity with China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. Canada is freezing ties with the China-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, while it probes allegations it is dominated by the Chinese Communist Party, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland said on Wednesday. Freeland said she did not rule out any outcome of the investigation, a clear hint that Ottawa could pull out of the bank it officially joined in March 2018.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Out of the bank it officially joined in March 2018. The bank's global communications director, Canadian Bob Pickard, said Wednesday he had resigned and accused the bank of being dominated by the Communist Party, an allegation the AIIB said was baseless. The Government of Canada will immediately halt all government-led activity at the bank. and I have instructed the Department of Finance to lead an immediate review of the allegations raised and of Canada's involvement in the AIIB, Freeland told reporters. She said as the world's democracies work to limit their strategic vulnerabilities to authoritarian regimes, they must be clear about the ways such governments exercise their influence. The review I am announcing today is to be undertaken expeditiously. And I am not ruling out any outcome following its completion, she said. Pickard, who worked for AIIB for 15 months, said in a statement on Twitter that resigning was his only option as a patriotic Canadian. He claimed the bank was dominated by Communist Party hacks who were like an in-house KGB or Gestapo or Stasi. The Beijing headquartered bank has one of the most toxic cultures imaginable, Pickard wrote. I don't believe that my
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Or Gestapo or Stasi. The Beijing headquartered bank has one of the most toxic cultures imaginable, Pickard wrote. I don't believe that my country's interests are served by its AIIB membership. The resignation comes at a time when ruling Communist Party leader Xi Jinping is tightening control over China's government and pushing private sector companies to align with the party's development plans. Mr. Pickard's recent public comments and characterization of the bank are baseless and disappointing, the AIIB said in the email. It said the bank supported and empowered him during his tenure. We are proud of our multilateral mission and have a diverse international team representing 65 different nationalities, the bank said. The Chinese embassy in Ottawa did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in power when Canada joined the AIIB. The opposition Conservatives have long demanded that Ottawa pull out of the bank, saying it is a tool for Beijing to export authoritarianism throughout the Pacific. Freeland's remarks mark a new dip in bilateral relations with China, which have been frosty for the past 5 years. The RCMP said Tuesday it is investigating allegations that China tried to intimidate a federal Conservative MP. Canada has accused China of trying to interfere in its affairs through various schemes, including illegal police stations and the targeting of lawmakers. Beijing denies all such allegations. Accused China of trying to interfere in its affairs through various schemes, including illegal police stations and the targeting of lawmakers. Beijing denies all such allegations.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
TikTok to invest billions of dollars in Southeast Asia to boost e-commerce business. Short video app TikTok, owned by China's ByteDance, said on Thursday, June 15, it would invest billions of dollars in Southeast Asia over the next few years, as it doubles down on the region amid intensifying global scrutiny over its data security.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Global scrutiny over its data security. Southeast Asia, a region with a collective population of 630 million, half of them under 30, is one of TikTok's biggest markets in terms of user numbers, generating more than 325 million visitors to the app every month. But the platform has yet to translate the large user base into a major e-commerce revenue source in the region as it faces fierce competition from bigger rivals of Sea's Shopee, Alibaba's Lazada, and GoTo's Tokopedia. We're going to invest billions of dollars in Indonesia and Southeast Asia over the next few years, TikTok CEO Xiao Ziyichu said at a forum it organized in Jakarta to highlight the social and economic impact of the app in the region. TikTok did not provide a detailed breakdown of the spending plan, but said it would invest in training, advertising, and supporting small vendors looking to join its e-commerce platform TikTok Shop. A TikTok spokesperson told 24newsread.blogspot.com on Thursday evening that $12.2 million will be aimed at helping more than 120,000 small and medium.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Read.blogspot.com on Thursday evening that $12.2 million will be aimed at helping more than 120,000 small and medium-sized businesses transition online. This will consist of cash grants, digital skills training, and advertising credits for SMBs, including micro businesses, in rural and suburban areas, and comes as the platform continues to grow into a valuable platform for businesses and creators. Chu said content on its platform was becoming more diversified as it adds more users and expands beyond advertising into e-commerce, allowing consumers to purchase goods through links on the app during live streaming. TikTok has 8,000 employees in Southeast Asia, and 2 million small vendors selling their wares on its platform in Indonesia, the region's biggest economy, he added. E-commerce transactions across the region reached nearly $100 billion last year, with Indonesia accounting for $52 billion, according to data from consultancy Momentum Works. TikTok facilitated $4.4 billion of transactions across Southeast Asia last year, up from $600 million in 2021, but it still trailed far behind Shopee's $48 billion of regional merchandise sales in 2022, Momentum Works said. TikTok's investment plan comes as the Chinese-owned company faces scrutiny from some governments and regulators because of concerns that Beijing could use the app to harvest user data or advance its interests. Countries including Britain and New Zealand have banned the app on government phones, moves TikTok said it believed were based on fundamental misconceptions and driven by wider geopolitics. TikTok has repeatedly denied that it has ever shared data with the Chinese government and has said the company would not do so if asked. The app has not faced major bans on government devices in Southeast Asia, but it has been under scrutiny over its content. Indonesia presented one of its first major global policy challenges in 2018, after authorities briefly banned TikTok for posts they said contained pornography, inappropriate content, and blasphemy. In Vietnam, regulators said it would probe TikTok's operations in the country because toxic content on the platform poses a threat to its youth, culture, and tradition. After authorities briefly banned TikTok for posts they said contained pornography, inappropriate content, and blasphemy. In Vietnam, regulators said it would probe TikTok's operations in the country because toxic content on the platform poses a threat to its youth, culture, and tradition. Culture and tradition.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Why a big chunk of the government's climate fund hasn't been spent yet. Tens of millions of dollars earmarked for government climate change projects are yet to be spent, with funding being rolled over. Treasury documents show about a third of the initiatives in the $3.6 billion Climate Emergency Response Fund, CERF, may not use all their allocated funding for this year. Trouble recruiting staff is a major culprit.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
Trouble recruiting staff is a major culprit. The unused money ranges from hundreds of thousands to tens of millions of dollars, affecting a range of projects, including initiatives to burn less fossil fuel and use more renewables. Spending is transferred to later years. Frustrating, but people not sitting on their hands, Climate Minister. Emeritus Professor of Sustainable Energy and Climate Mitigation Ralph Sims said the lack of action was alarming. We should be in a war footing. If this was World War II, we'd be throwing money at it left, right, and center, and pouring resources at it and training people. Climate change is happening faster than most people imagine. Climate Change Minister James Shaw said the slow spend from CERF was incredibly frustrating. It is a concern to all of us, although most of the reasons for it are similar to everywhere else in the economy where we are facing supply constraints, human resource constraints, and so on, rather than because people are sitting on their hands. Shaw said ministers and public sector bosses are pushing hard to get work underway quickly. Worldwide demand for workers. Reasons for underspending include policy program and cabinet decision hold-ups, and the impact of Cyclone Gabrielle. But difficulty.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.
For workers. Reasons for underspending include policy program and cabinet decision hold-ups, and the impact of Cyclone Gabrielle. But difficulty finding staff was the most commonly cited reason. Sims said qualified and experienced workers were in huge demand. It is not just New Zealand wanting these workers, there is worldwide demands. Anybody with the right expertise is highly sought after by many countries. We do have a problem, we can't train people up quickly enough. Deloitte Director of Sustainability and Climate Ricky Stancic said the fund's slow spend was not of itself make or break for the climate. She said it was one of a number of government climate programs, and only expected to account for 10% of the reductions needed in the second half of the decade. It takes time to implement and scale projects, she said. It's not a huge surprise, you can't just receive a budget and immediately invest it. You need time to consider how best to do it, what kind of framework needs to be built. Often those government agencies didn't know that they'd be getting the funding until right up until the last minute. Stancic said the Climate Change Commission's climate roadmap has factored in an initial lag while programs were established. But she said the Commission also warned that small delays in the next few years will have compounding effects, and could add up to large undershoots in the long run. There is a particularly large underspend, about $70 million, in the program to help industry switch from burning coal and other fossil fuels to electricity. The Treasury documents said the first year has required program design and implementation, more of the expenditure is now forecast to occur in out years. Stancic said a significant amount of planning was needed for such a change. So it is not just an overnight, one-off, we've got the money, we'll just invest it and hey presto, we're all electrified. The Ministry for Business, Innovation and Employment said lumpiness of project spend was a reason some spending was behind forecast, and it would catch up over time. It said staff recruitment has taken longer than anticipated and caused some temporary delays. Work is now well underway across these projects and, where relevant, the funding will be transferred into subsequent years in support of New Zealand's decarbonisation efforts, the ministry said. Treasury said it was not uncommon for projects to be underspent at times, and the tight labour market was affecting many sectors, with climate no exception. It said the SURF fund has only been in place for about a year and it usually takes time to scale up existing projects and resource new ones. There was a $20 million underspend in the government's international commitments to help other countries, particularly those in the Pacific, to reduce emissions and adapt to climate change. Current forecast is less than the approved baseline. Approval to shift some of this allocation into future financial years may be sought, the Treasury document said. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade said in a statement there is now a different spend profile over 4 years than was originally indicated, and work already done was yet to be reflected in the Treasury SURF figures. It said it was on track to outlay the full $1.3 billion in climate finance by the end of 2025, the end of the commitment period. Future financial years may be sought, the Treasury document said. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade said in a statement there is now a different spend profile over 4 years than was originally indicated, and work already done was yet to be reflected in the Treasury SURF figures. It said it was on track to outlay the full $1.3 billion in climate finance by the end of 2025, the end of the commitment period. 5. The end of the commitment period.
Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos. Subscribe our YouTube channel and click our bell icon for new videos.